Uncle Bildy here. This is for uh, sharing with middle America, workers, blue collar Grabowskis, or in the South, Bubbas, my people, salt of the earth, people that make America great. This is for you. This video is for you. I got something you really need to listen to. You need to listen, and you need to listen good. Okay? And those of you that know what I'm talking about, share it. Because I've got my I'm doing the news junkie thing on the internet and watching what everybody has to say, and I see something that's it just ain't right. I gotta fix it. There's a lot of lying going on. So let's start at the beginning. Who is the middle class, blue collar, regular American? The Trump people, for the most part, they are. Red state. What they call us, deplorables. Yeah, that's what the certain sectors decided to call us, deplorables, and then they ran their scams. The they tried to say Trump cheated somehow using the Russians. Come on. We all know that, how all that went. Well, I don't need to go over every detail. We just want to remind you of how they think and what they've been doing. And then, Poopy Pants, you think he got 81 million votes? You can't even talk about it. You get banned. The media people, the social media people, we all know what they are. It's a struggle, and it's not. See, a lot of people they're fighting the wrong enemy. You got that left-right dichotomy. It's not even true anymore. It's a lot of Judas goats that are not what they claim to be, and they're trying to mislead you. There's a lot of operations that to use an old Aesop fable thing. They make these tar babies, and then they hand them to you and see if you grab them, get your hands stuck in them, and you can't do anything. That's what they're doing right now. We know how clever they are and how they set us up. Like on January 6th, what happened there. They had government departments. FBI was in on it. Various different agencies working in connection with anti-Trump people. Let's distill this down to what it really is. You need to think bigger than just Trump. This is a worldwide struggle. This is a global struggle. And what's it all about? You got to keep focused on that. What is the struggle? Who are the opposing sides? And what do they want? I think Ukraine is illustrative of it. There are billionaires and corporations and various organizations that want a one world, all powerful government. They want to do away with jurisprudence. They want to do away with our judicial system. They want to do away with everybody's judicial system. The social media is the model. They want a cashless society and some sort of invisible government that they'll claim is run by AI, and you can't argue with AI. No, it's got an IQ of 6 million. And you better show obeisance to it. I mean, I've seen TED Talks that these people have given where they literally tell you that when they create artificial intelligence, you're going to have to worship it because you want to make sure that it knows that you're not threatening to it. Wow. I mean, wow. I study them. I study these elites, these people that go to the Davos, and some of them go to the Bilderberger meetings. Well, they still have those, only it's not Bilderberger anymore. They just call it that. And you're automatically tagged as conspiracy theorist if you talk about them. I think most people who listen to this know that exists. It's a worldwide cabal of people who are incredibly wealthy. and very powerful. And they've been spending all their time putting their little things in place, and they've got them infiltrated, and they made NGOs and charities that become quasi-government organizations. They get enormous amounts of money for research, and they use this stuff against you. The research is supposed to cure cancer, but it ends up making bioweapons. Every aspect about it, once you start digging, you just get into a rabbit hole. And you see things that are mind blowing, and you can't talk about it, or they'll ban you. They'll shadow ban you. They'll turn you off. They'll deplatform you. And the people, general common people you talk to that should know better, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Where did I get the idea of what these people want and what they're doing? Well, I listen to their TED Talks that they have their managers give, and I read their books. Anyway, there's other people that do that too, and they're saying the same thing I am. We got a global struggle going on. They want a one world government where they control who can breed, who can go into the future, and who has to be, sterilized and can't have kids. They get to decide. Who elected them? Did they get there by merit because they're super smart geniuses and they got rich because they're so smart? No, they're old families, they inherited it, and they got rich by screwing people because they don't have any conscience or any morals. You want to be governed by people like that, do you? It used to be a system where you had accountability in your government. You don't have it anymore. It's been supplanted by corporations, and they want you to go by their policies and their community standards, and they're getting to the point where they're having the police enforce them. That thing we just went through, okay? The last big thing where everybody's wearing a mask. And now you got this new thing, everybody's waving around the little blue and yellow flags. A lot of you are on the side of the globalists. A lot of you are on the side of the one world people, because they made a nice little scenario where plucky little Ukraine just wants to be independent of big old mean evil Russia. That's not what's going on. Ukraine is a playground for extremely corrupt people. It's one of the most corrupt nations on the face of the planet. Okay, for those of you that don't know me, allow me to introduce myself. My name is George Pierce. I have lived in Crimea since 2006. I worked in Afghanistan as a logistics contractor and subject matter specialist from 2004 to 2008. I worked in Iraq after that between 2009 and 2011. I'm an automation specialist. I work in big factories all over the country. I've worked in Caterpillar, Pratt & Whitney, Volvo, various and sundry casting and metalworking places, and energy too. I worked in a lot of the energy sector and food production. I do it all. I'm an automation specialist. That's pretty general. I work with machinery, and I see what they're doing, and I see the ideologically driven management in all these factories. And it's all to a purpose. It's all part of the same beast. What's happening in Ukraine is part of it. It's all part of it. I see the pattern. I see what they're doing. It's a big picture. I'm a big picture kind of guy. I notice things. And what I want to tell you is if you find yourself on the same side as Klaus Schwab and George Soros and Hillary Clinton and Bill Gates, you're probably on the wrong side. You're on the side against your own interests. I don't care what the little just so stories is that they told you. I know what happened in Ukraine. I'm here. I lived in Ukraine until it changed into Russia. Like I said, I live in Crimea since 2006. I know a thing or two. I speak Russian. Я говорю русский. Не очень хорошо is я американец. I speak Russian. I can understand Russian. I can read and write it very slowly and very poorly like a second grader, but I can do it. And I can see what's going on. I listen to all of Putin's speeches. I know what he's saying. I know what he's been saying for years. Let me give you a little rundown here. What's going on is Ukrainian government was taken over by the globalists, the globalist factions in the U.S., Victoria Nuland, Jeffrey Pyatt. I think Obama was president at that time. Yeah. They took over Ukraine. They overthrew the elected leader. Now, who is the elected leader? Let me tell you something about Ukraine. It's cobbed together from different ethnicities and different people. It's not a unified country that goes back thousands of years. That's what they're telling you. That's BS. I know a lot about the history of this place. I've been to many historical sites and I've studied it. The Donbass was Russian. They broke it off Russia and gave it to the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic in 1922. That's why it's full of Russian people. Okay? Because I've heard people say, well, I don't like Russia so much, they need to move to Russia. They were in Russia. Their borders got erased and redrawn around them. Good analogy would be if North American states formed a union that lasted 70 years and then they decided some Mexican president said, we're going to give Texas to Mexico. It's just easier that way. And they do it. There's no probs. We're all brothers, right? Then when it breaks up, Mexico hangs on to Texas and then starts making a war on the people living there that don't speak Spanish, and starts putting up filtration camps to find them. Oh, you like English so much? What are you living in Texas for? That's the same thing. That's what happened to Donbass. Donbass. That's why they're there. And the Ukraine, at the direction of the American people that took over their government, decided to start calling them terrorists and waging war against them. It would be like Hillary, if Hillary got elected, start going after the people that were Trumpists, the red states, the ones that didn't vote for her. Well, they're terrorists. Use the National Guard to go after them, set up filtration camps, and start checking people out with their ideology. That's what's happened in Ukraine for the last 8 years. They've been shelling them because the people of Donbass have resisted it. Now you can think of Donbass as like the Rust Belt. Well, it's not rusty. They got a land industry there. Mines, metalworking, machine building. It's like the Michigan of Ukraine. All these people always voted for somebody that was pro-Russian because they speak Russian and they did business with Russia. Russia didn't control the place. They had a lot of business. Russia put those businesses in there. Well, that kind of screwed Ukraine up as far as the globalists are concerned. You had all these people voting wrong. Yeah, they pulled this coup and threw out the elected leader and put their people in. Their guy Yats, right? Yats is our guy. Do you remember that? Have you heard that one? Yeah, they installed the guy they wanted. Anyway, they've been installing the people they wanted ever since. The Donbass resisted, and they got bombed and called Russian separatists, and just on and on and on. And some of the propaganda, some of the stuff in the news in the West is so ridiculously bald-faced lies. But now that Russia finally decided to do something about it after 8 years of patience, don't want to make a scene. We know that would look bad. It's bad optics if we go in and help these people. They let them get shelled for 8 years. Lots of women and children died. They let Ukraine threaten them. I put some links down here for some stuff you can look at. Some good stuff, some primers, you can see what's going on. Because I hear all these people, Second Amendment people, Trumpists, red staters, we gotta go help Ukraine get out of Russian control. You're on the wrong side. Stop it. Listen to me. You're helping the globalists that want to enslave you. It's the same thing. It's worldwide. You can't let them trick you like that. You need to stop letting them trick you. Putin, like I said, I listened to his speeches. He was a KGB guy. So what? George Bush the Older was the director of the CIA. You can't let these stupid little baby games throw you off. Actually, Putin was in the legal department of the KGB. He was a pencil pusher. You have this imagery that you get from movies. A lot of you watch movies, action movies, like, who is it, Bruce Willis and Vin Diesel, and they're always in the Soviet Union, and they're schlepping around in all these creepy buildings with mold on the walls, and, dead rats everywhere, and there's criminals, and even little kids will try to kill them and stuff. That's what your image of Russia is. I live here. I lived here in Crimea when it was Ukraine, and I live here now that it's Russian. I've made a lot of videos about it. You can look at them. I'll tell you what's going on. It's not going to get that from the news. I'm not the only one either. You don't have to take my word. There's a bunch of us over here. Americans, Germans, people from Ireland. Lots of different people here. And some of them are lying to you, especially the ones in Ukraine, because they get money for it. Or they have an ideological dog in the race. They want globalism. They're for it. But who can you believe? Is it he said, she said? No, I offer evidence. They don't. They offer smoke and mirrors. If you look into it, which you need to, if you don't want to take my word for it, at least do some digging. You're going to get caught doing something contrary to your own interests. Anyway, well, let's move on. You watch your generals on Fox News. I know all about those guys. They get big money and big contracts, and they get positions from the military complex, from the people that provide the weapons. They're going to say what puts money in their stock portfolio, and that's all they're going to say. They're sociopaths. They don't care what happens to you. Most of them are globalists, too. They're all for this stuff because they'll be filthy, stinking rich, and they'll get a little attaboy and a little place at the table. Those soldiers that are going out and taking the risks and doing the dirty work, they're not going to get a place at the table. They probably won't even get their benefits. They often don't. I wouldn't listen to brass on Fox News. They're lying to you. Well, you know, all the corruption in Ukraine, all the money laundering and human trafficking and all this other stuff, and you old poopy pants is in on that, don't you? And a lot of your Congress critters are. You don't think that has something to do with it? You want to go and sacrifice your blood and treasure for that? Why are they so concerned about making things go the way they want it to? And you're going to help them? Really? Stop and think about it. I just want you to freaking stop with all this rhetoric, all this bullshit about we gotta help the fucking Ukrainians fight off the Russians. Stop it. Listen to yourself. Look at who's on the rope, on the rope that you're pulling. You're in a tug of war. Whose rope are you pulling? And look at the other side. What are they saying? Putin has said many times at big forums that for a multipolar world, this one world order stuff doesn't work. We need everybody to have their own little sphere of influence, or they have their own culture and be left alone and develop as they see fit with their resources. Does that sound like a horrible thing? It does to the globalists. It does to the people at Davos. It does to the World Economic Forum. And I have people say, well, Putin talks about the UN and he's a part of the World Economic Forum. I think they threw him out of there, if I remember correctly. But the UN original charter is what, when Putin talks about it, that's what it is. It's a place for different nations to resolve their differences, without going to war if possible. That's what the UN was originally for. Now it's become this behemoth with all these NGOs and all these factions that are mostly gunning for a new world order, a one world government. They're not a part of that. They're opposed to it. As a matter of fact, this might be a surprise to you too. Russia has a constitution. You can look at the history of it and where they got it and what it entails. It's got 3 branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial. It's very similar to the U.S. Constitution. They altered it in 2020. Putin put up a referendum, and all the Russian people voted on it and decided to alter the Constitution. And one of the things they altered it for is to say marriage shall be defined as a man and a woman. Oh my God! That's what hacked them off. Because this business about transgender and gender fluid and all that stuff, that's part of it. It's a big part of the New World Order. They want you to do that. They control you real well like that. Pharmaceutical companies love it. They make tons of money. They want to give kids hormone blockers until they're adolescents and then have counseling to decide what they want to be. They love that stuff. You're cultivating a population of people that don't reproduce very much, which they want, and are weak and kind of screwed up in the head and don't know which way is up or down, which they want, easily manipulatable. You're good enough to scrub windows and fill potholes and cut weeds and wash dishes. That's all they need you for anyway. These globalists, that's the way they look at you. You're pests. If they can put you to work, fine. If they can't, well, they'll get rid of you. They also have you on hormones the rest of your life, and they can withhold them if you don't do what they say. So if you pretending you're female and you're really a male and you're taking these hormones, and then they'll you violated our community standards, we're shutting you off, and then you turn into a horrifying monster. Who wants that? Yeah. Putin and Russia. Putin doesn't dictate anything to Russia. It's a group of people that are in political power by choice of the Russian people that go through a legislature. They haven't stolen any elections that I know of. There's no evidence of it, like some countries. But they stated that. And another thing, this is even more important. They added an amendment. They changed the Constitution to state that laws made outside of Russia, not through the Russian legislature, are invalid in Russia. They can't be applied there. Only go by law made in Russia. So they don't have to go by these UN agendas that they've been coming up with. That really pissed them off. Anyway, you want to fight these people for Soros and Hillary. I want to slap your face till it's hot. I'm serious. I've been studying this and watching it for a long time. I can't believe so many people are being hoodwinked by this, because it's all emotions and it's all the propaganda. First, stop watching television. You're programmed. I mean, it sounds radical, but you got to listen to me. You're programmed since you're a toddler to suspend your disbelief and identify with the hero and go along with the narrative. It's a control mechanism. You do that when they watch the news. I don't care if you say you don't or you think you don't. If you watch television, you watch your shows all the time, you're doing it. You're doing it automatically. That's what the programming is for. They can tell you something that's just completely freaking absurd, and well, it's part of the narrative and part of who I am, so I have to support this. Yeah, it works brilliantly, doesn't it? And you support things against your own interests. Just saying. I try to be nice. I watched what happened in the Donbass early on in this thing, and I was impressed. One thing that happened when they declared the country that had been taken over by a U.S.-sponsored coup, declared that they're terrorists and went after them, they resisted and they kicked their ass. I mean, they really did. The Donbass people, how could they do that? They don't have AR-15s in their closets. They don't have gun rights. How did they do that? They got a different system here. It's a lot more effective. Your neighborhood leaders and your neighborhood local elected authorities and veterans all communicate and stick together and have meetings. And they got weapons caches. They got small arms. They got indirect fire. They got manipads. They got everything they need. And when the Ukrainians came in, first thing that happens, the police stopped them and says, you can't come in here. And they disarmed them. They says, turn over your weapons, turn around, go home. And they did. Because the original wave that went over there was regular Ukrainian army. They didn't really want to shoot their own people. So that worked brilliantly. They got a lot of weapons there. They even took old tanks off monuments. They don't plug the barrels of concrete and take the engines out like they do in America. Yeah, they greased them up and put some diesel in them, fired them up and put them in service. And they started defending themselves. And they had for 8 years. But they defended themselves a little too well. Bunch of Polish and American mercenaries went over there, American and British advisors. They were caught. I've seen videos of it. I've seen videos that were indisputable what was going on. I mean, you see it in American media that, the Russians are shelling Mariupol. With one of the rockets that's stuck in the ground, it didn't go off. It's on an angle. Behind it, you can see a street sign on a corner. You can locate it on Google and look at the angle and the direction it came from. It came from Ukraine. Nobody has any motivation or any geopolitical reason to shell the Donbass but Ukraine. You look at the OSCE, that's the people that record ceasefire violations. When the Donbass stopped these incursions into their territory, saying they were terrorists, they actually kicked them pretty good, and they created cauldrons, and then 9 of them that the NATO-sponsored people in Ukraine got caught in. And the last one was huge, and that's when they called a truce. Ukraine called a truce at the direction of the people controlling Ukraine. Your Congress critters, I think, a lot of it. NATO. They called a truce, and because they were going to lose a bunch of people. And well, this truce has been violated ever since it was signed because nobody backs it up. Ukraine still shells them. They don't go into them because they'll get their ass handed to them, but they'd sit back and shell them. They shell hospitals, they shell schools, they shell kindergartens. They've been doing it for 8 years. You didn't hear about it, did you? But now all of a sudden, oh, poor little Ukraine. Ukraine got invaded for no reason. Russia restrained itself for 8 freaking years. And now they're going in to do something about it. And you think they're going to be bombing civilians and killing people indiscriminately like you're hearing in the news? When it doesn't smell right. There's no motive to do that. There's no reason why they would do it. They'd have to be idiots. They're not idiots, I assure you. Anyway, you're on the wrong side. And I see people coming over to Ukraine to help as soldiers. Just stop it. That's another thing I want to address too. And a lot of people are going to get really hacked off about this. But I'll tell you something. America's got a big problem with fetishizing their military men. They're not gods. They're not angels. They're men just like you. We have a citizen army. We have an army of citizen soldiers. They're not above you. Just because some young man goes out and does something heroic in such an environment doesn't make him a god. All men want to do something heroic unless they're soy boys. There's people that are trying to stamp that heroism stuff out. It's toxic masculinity. That's a new world order, and you're helping them. All young men want to do something heroic. That's why people join street gangs if there's nothing else, or they become outlaw bikers or whatever. You know, it's not such an extraordinary thing. I've seen heroism, and I respect it. But to fetishize the military and fetishize the police, thank you for your service. They're sent over there to fight against your best interest, to fight for the New World Order, to steal things for people, you know, and you thank them for their service. And a lot of them know what they're doing. They figure it out, and they go back and everybody's falling down at their feet wanting to lick their boots. Kind of makes them sick. That's why a lot of them really get kind of an attitude. I know guys that came back from Afghanistan that want to punch your lights out when you do that. They were lied to get over there, and they did things there that they really don't think they should have been doing. You do to Afghanistan. The U.S. made Afghanistan into what it was. We got to stop them from becoming a Soviet satellite. Yeah, if they'd have been a Soviet satellite, it'd have been like Uzbekistan or Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan. They weren't any problem. Wasn't any of your freaking business. But you had to stop it, so you turned it into a freaking horrifying nightmare hellhole. Congratulations. Thank you for your service. I would all call the American people and those that are in the military and those that are, blue collar grabowskis that supply the military, stop being a dupe. This is never going to end as long as you're a dupe. You keep fighting for the wrong side, you're going to erase yourself. You're going to be slaves. Your children's lives are going to be horrifying. Anyway, the same thing could happen in the U.S. I mean, they kind of did a little testing on that. What comes around goes around. Russia just wants to take over Ukraine and steal everything. That's what your pundits on Fox News are telling you. Really? Oh, like they did Crimea. I live in Crimea. Crimea is full of Russians. Russia built all the cities in Crimea before there was a Soviet Union. Crimea has always belonged to Russia. Again, the Soviet Union gave it to Ukraine. Why? Well, administration purposes probably, or a little gerrymandering. They got Poles and Germans and people of Hungarian descent in Western Ukraine that are very anti-Russian, mainly because the West have been working on them a long time. Now, I'm going to put some links to videos down there explain that if you got time to look at them. You know, maybe skip some of your shows and look at them. This is real. I was here for the referendum. This is extremely pro-Russian place. It was 85% turnout, I think, and 90-something, I think it was 95% in favor of joining Russia. Why can't they do that? What business is it of yours? Russia didn't steal or annex anything. They got something back that was theirs, and the people there voted for it. That's what Donbass wants to do. Donbass was originally part of Russia too. Why is Ukraine going, my precious? It wasn't theirs. It never was theirs. What's up with that, my precious Crimea? What's up with that? They're nuts because the U.S. has been instilling that into them. Oh, by the way, as far as we're talking about instilling things, you haven't heard about all the bioweapons labs that the U.S. set up in Ukraine yet, have you? Oh, it's coming out. Is that important? What did we just go through? I want to think about that. Who are you supporting? Yeah. Russia doesn't steal anything because I lived in Crimea when it was Ukraine, and it was a nice place to live for me. But I'm a little odd. I just want to be left alone, and I don't care if we don't have nice amenities or anything. The parks are all shaggy and overgrown, broken concrete and asphalt, broken playground equipment, run down buildings. It looked like your Bruce Willis and Vin Diesel Russian movies. Yeah, it did. It really did. Everything just been neglected for 20 years because it's been ruled by Ukraine for 20 years. And all this money that goes into it for fixing things up, well, they just stole it. Some of it might have ended up in Biden's pocket. The place is just horrifyingly neglected. I got pictures. And then after the referendum, Russia started spending billions of dollars fixing it. They fixed the roads, they fixed the parks, they totally redid the parks, and they are beautiful, opulent. They pulled out the stops. It's freaking impressive. They redid the schools, the buildings. They're still redoing stuff. I've put some of it in my videos. How is that stealing? They stole the park by spending billions of dollars to fix, a decrepit, neglected little empty lot into. I get a little carried away because I'm here. This is my passion when I see people believe in all this stuff in the Western media. Russia poured all that money into these places, and I can show you. How are they making money off of it? They don't charge people to go to these parks. Nobody owns them. But Russia's stealing Ukraine for the resources. What's the U.S. doing? They're dismantling their industries. The places the Ukrainian government controls, they were following orders from UNESCO, or the IMF and USAID and all the U.S. agencies they got in the Ukrainian government building. They're pulling out the equipment and cutting it up for scrap. The EU and Uncle Sam don't like competition. They're turning it into a colony. They'll take the resources and make stuff and give you a little money, and that's the deal. Yeah, go along with it. Oh, our new friends are going to make us like Europeans. Well, they screwed up, didn't they? I'll end this now. I got a lot of editing work to do now because I slipped up and said a bad word. I don't want to do that. I need more practice. Uncle Bildy signing out.